This is a scene of a future day when the earth is occupied by the demonic army of the fallen angel Michael, pushing humanity to the brink of destruction. The man holding the flaming sword is the one chosen to save civilization. By destroying these ugly, horrible monsters, the danger to the earth will be temporarily eliminated. But can humans really destroy gods? And why was this man chosen for such a noble mission? The story takes us back to the starting point. On the battlefield in Iraq, the two sides are fighting fiercely. Bombs and bullets explode in the sky. Gabriel leads his teammates to participate in a fierce gunfight with a local armed organization. Only Gabriel is seen firing a bullet into the enemy's head. Then he takes advantage of all the cover to continue the attack. At the same time, the sniper from the high position also successfully shoots down two enemies. At this point, it seems like the battle is about to end. However, an enemy tank suddenly appears and slowly advances onto the battlefield. Sniper David was the first to discover the danger. David quickly prepared his gun, ready to launch a fatal blow. However, Leah sensed something was wrong. Leah immediately called out and asked David to return to the front. David did not hesitate. He quickly left his position and rushed downstairs to support his teammates. But when they entered a nearby house, the strong smell of blood hit their noses. They were horrified to discover that Paul had killed all the prisoners. While everyone was still in shock, a grenade suddenly flew towards them, causing a terrible explosion. David was knocked off his feet by the shockwave. His head was bleeding, so he rushed into the house. Gabriel saw that David's injury was serious, so he immediately ordered the others to take care of Trigger while he went out alone to scout the situation. Gabriel quickly took down the enemy who was ambushing outside the door. Then Gabriel carefully observed the surroundings, but suddenly, a cold air carrying the breath of death rushed in. Gabriel seemed to sense something, so he put down his weapon. It turned out to be just a dream, but the scar on his chest was still there. It was proof that the years of brutal fighting left indelible wounds in his mind and body. Gabriel was forced to seek medicine to soothe the lingering mental pain. At this moment, Gabriel suddenly heard someone calling his name. He immediately looked in the direction of the sound, but the result was extremely surprising. Gabriel discovered a strange man appeared in his house. That man was gently shaking a glass of red wine and calmly raised the glass towards Gabriel. He did not consider himself an outsider at all. Gabriel immediately frowned. Gabriel did not expect that someone could quietly break into his house like that, so Gabriel sternly warned the man to get out of his house immediately. Otherwise, Gabriel would call the police to arrest him for trespassing. However, the man was not afraid at all. He even took a sip of wine and smiled at Gabriel, saying, "Can you still fight?" Gabriel had no idea what the man was talking about. Gabriel had long since finished his military service and was honorably discharged. Even if Gabriel were to be summoned back, it would be someone from the country who would come to inform him. However, the strange man said that this time he was not serving the country, but serving the people. Hearing these incomprehensible words, Gabriel gradually lost his patience. Gabriel once again resolutely chased the man away, but the man had already disappeared without a trace. The next day, Gabriel went out to work as usual. When Gabriel passed by a house, a little girl happily invited him to play a game with her. Looking at the child's innocent and lovely smile, Gabriel refused the invitation with a complicated expression. Elsewhere, a fierce final match was taking place in an underground boxing ring. The two opponents were evenly matched, so it was difficult to determine the winner in a short time. The crowd gathered around and cheered excitedly. At this moment, the tattooed man took advantage of his opponent's weakness and directly used his hand to strangle him, then threw a powerful punch. The opponent was immediately knocked to the floor and lost all ability to fight back. The tattooed man once again extended his unbeaten streak. Then, the ringmaster asked loudly with an arrogant expression if anyone else dared to step up and challenge him. Unexpectedly, there were actually people who didn't believe it. This new challenger was named Marcus. From the looks of it, he was clearly no longer young. The tattooed man looked at Marcus with disdain, but Marcus was different. As soon as the match started, Marcus had the upper hand. Marcus made the tattooed man unable to move his hands. He was continuously punched by the sky. Only then did he seriously start a fierce battle with Marcus. Neither of them gave in. Every move went straight to the flesh. Although the tattooed man with a young and strong body held Marcus very tightly, but clearly Marcus was no pushover. Marcus used a headbutt to escape control. Marcus took advantage of the situation and used his elbow to hit his opponent hard on the head. The next second, the tattooed man fell down unconscious. Marcus easily won the match and pocketed a huge sum of money. At this moment, a man in a neat suit walked into the break room. He asked Marcus in a friendly manner if he wanted to play another game. The opponent was him. Barnabas thought that this person came to cause trouble, so he immediately used a fierce attitude to chase this person away. However, this person showed his sincerity. He not only promised to help Marcus solve all the problems, but he also showed his card. It was a whole bag full full of gold. Barnabas saw this and immediately stepped forward to receive it. At this time, he also stated his condition. If Marcus lost, he would have to sacrifice his soul to this man. The man's words were very strange, but Marcus did not pay any attention. Barnabas even mocked the man for not knowing his own strength. So Marcus took the initiative to attack first, but the opponent's move was extremely agile. He easily caught Marcus's punch. The next second, black lines appeared on Marcus's arm. Then a memory appeared in Marcus's mind. In that memory, several masked men in black had stopped a government relief vehicle. After subduing all the relief workers, they robbed several packages. The leader then took off his mask. It was Marcus. Marcus shot a government employee without hesitation and then pointed his gun at the other two, threatening them to turn away. Looking at their terrified faces, Marcus felt a surge of pleasure. Marcus forced the two to open their eyes and then brutally murdered them. The memory stopped abruptly. At this moment, Marcus was shocked to find that his soul had been separated from his body. The bag of gold had also turned into leaves. What was going on? Why did that man want to take Marcus's soul? What was he plotting? Back to Gabriel. He had already started working. The old mechanic took the opportunity to shirk his work and pushed all the work onto Gabriel. Gabriel reluctantly accepted. But at this moment, a strange voice sounded beside Gabriel, urging him to quickly find them. Then a cross necklace appeared in the car. Gabriel quickly looked around, but there was no one in the repair shop. Gabriel curiously stepped into the car. Just as Gabriel was carefully examining the necklace, the mysterious man from last night appeared again. Gabriel was startled and terrified. He wondered if everything last night was not a dream. The man called himself Balthazar, a messenger of God, and Gabriel was the one chosen by God with a mission to fight against the archangel Michael and his army of demons. Gabriel had to protect the earth and human civilization. These words sounded a bit far-fetched, so Gabriel didn't believe them at first. But Balthazar knew a lot about Gabriel's life. Balthazar not only knew that Gabriel suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, but Balthazar also knew that Gabriel doubted his faith after the war. Balthazar even took the initiative to mention some of Gabriel's comrades as if he knew everything. Although Gabriel was extremely surprised, he still did not understand why God would choose an ordinary person like him. However, Balthazar explained meaningfully that perhaps it was because Gabriel had a strong sense of duty in his heart. Gabriel was always haunted by the events of past, so God chose him. After listening, Gabriel fell into deep thought. Then, with a serious expression, Balthazar said that Michael had closed the gates of hell for the lost souls trapped in the mortal world. Michael was using them to build an army to rule the human world. Only when they defeated Michael and his army of demons could the gates of hell be reopened and the lost souls returned to where they belonged. Once Gabriel failed, human society would also perish. This was an extremely important mission. Gabriel was not confident that he could complete the mission, but Balthazar had great confidence in Gabriel's abilities. Balthazar told Gabriel to lead his army to search for the peace warriors. Only then would they have any hope of defeating Michael. Then Balthazar disappeared without a trace. Gabriel was stunned by this huge amount of information. Gabriel still hadn't calmed down until after work. At this moment, Gabriel met the little girl again this morning, but for some reason she was crying very sadly. Gabriel hurriedly approached to ask. It turned out that while playing, the little girl accidentally broke a teacup. Therefore, she was severely scolded by the adults. Gabriel kindly comforted her not to be sad, but the little girl was still trying to fix the broken cup. Looking at her serious expression, Gabriel felt mixed emotions. When he got home, Gabriel looked at the words on the wine bottle and fell into deep thought. After a long time, he seemed to have made up his mind. At the same time, Marcus went to a dark warehouse. The purpose of his trip was to find the perverted murderer, Roman. At this time, Roman was committing a heinous act in the warehouse. He had cornered a beautiful young girl and was about to dismember her for his collection. Just as Roman was about to act, Marcus walked in. Roman was stunned by Marcus's aura. Roman quickly said that he was just a loser, but Marcus admired Roman's work very much. Marcus praised Roman as if he were Picasso reincarnated. Then Marcus invited Roman to join the demon army. Seeing Marcus step by step, Roman's psychological defenses immediately collapsed. Roman swung his spear to attack Marcus, but Roman was easily controlled by Marcus. Then something strange happened. Black lines also appeared on Roman's body. Then a memory appeared before his eyes, which was the entire process of Roman kidnapping the girl. After escaping from Roman's memory, his soul could not avoid leaving his body. Marcus had disappeared without a trace. The next day, David was blocked by a fierce dog. His colleague anxiously told David to go in and help, but looking at the fierce dog on the other side of the door, David's whole body showed resistance. In the end, David still refused to go in. His colleague could only mumble curses and then take the dog away. David saw that his job was gone, so he decided to leave. But David unexpectedly ran into Gabriel, who was waiting for him. The two had been comrades fighting side by side in the Iraq War. If Gabriel had not risked his life to save him, David would have died on the battlefield. Therefore, After David's brother passed away, Gabriel became David's only relative. When he learned that Gabriel wanted to form his own army, David agreed to join without hesitation. After finding his first comrade, Gabriel went to his former comrade Leah's house. He invited her to join the army. Leah really wanted to help David, but she had to take care of her seriously ill daughter, so she absolutely could not be distracted from supporting Gabriel. She could only wish him well. Looking at her former teammate with a haggard face, Gabriel understood her decision. Next, Gabriel went to find another person, the tattooed man who had boxed with Marcus before, who was also Gabriel's former teammate, Paul. Paul was currently participating in a match. Gabriel's sudden appearance made Paul inevitably lose focus. His opponent immediately took this opportunity to punch Paul and knock him to the floor. Paul then angrily questioned Gabriel, "Why did you suddenly come to me?" Gabriel ignored Paul's anger. Gabriel asked Paul if he wanted to go out on a mission with him. Paul had always considered Gabriel his best brother, so he immediately accepted the invitation. The formation of the Legion was nearing its end, but Leah, who had refused the invitation, was filled with thoughts. She soaked herself in the water to try to calm the complicated emotions in her heart. But in her daze, she saw Gabriel handing her daughter a bottle of blue liquid. There was a devilish smile on his face. What did this portend? At the same time, the three old comrades had started training again. Even though they had been discharged from the army for many years, everything was still there. The results of all three of their shooting training were very good. The next day, they went to Jokja, but Leah also came to support them. Gabriel enthusiastically hugged Leah and thanked her for agreeing to join the team, but Gabriel was still curious why Leah suddenly changed her mind. She told him that she had seen a vision of her daughter's future, but when Gabriel asked for details about the vision, Leah did not want to say much. She only told him that she trusted his every decision. Just like that, the four-man team successfully assembled. The old comrades fought together again. They immediately drove to the designated location. When they stopped at a red light, Gabriel rolled down the window and looked around. Unexpectedly, he saw three people with suspicious behavior on the side of the road. But the strange thing was that in the blink of an eye, all three disappeared without a trace. Soon, the four of them arrived at the hotel they had booked. Leah dipped her head in the water again. This time, she saw a distorted symbol and a pink, naked angel symbol. It looked like a neon sign. Behind it were the words Lila. Leah immediately searched for information but could not find any buildings named Lila in this area. Gabriel thought that maybe it was not the full name. He comforted her not to be disappointed. This word definitely had some meaning. It was just that they did not have the full information. Then, everyone began to analyze the angel symbol. Since it was related to neon lights, they guessed that it might be related to the night and that nudity might represent blasphemy, as if these pieces of information were connected. At this time, Gabriel was studying the distorted symbol. He soon discovered that it was not a symbol at all, but a letter in the Georgian language through the sign placed on the dining table. Leah immediately looked it up and discovered that the symbol represented the letter D. Combining all three pieces of information, Leah suddenly woke up. She knew where the peace warrior was hiding, so the group went to a nightclub called Delilah. Then they split up to search for their target. Before the action, Gabriel specifically told the lustful David not to trust anyone here, not even the strippers in the bar. However, David did not listen at all. David turned around and sat down in the seat closest to the stage. Obviously, he had forgotten his mission. The hotel was filled with a luxurious atmosphere. Although Leah felt uncomfortable, she still focused on finding her target. Paul went to the bar and ordered 2 strong cocktails. At this moment, Gabriel encountered the mysterious man on the street, but as soon as that man saw Gabriel, he ran away. He disappeared from Gabriel's sight in a flash. While Gabriel was searching everywhere for the man suddenly appeared behind Gabriel and tried to attack Gabriel. Fortunately, Gabriel was quick to avoid it. The two immediately started wrestling. However, the man was no match for Gabriel. After a few rounds, Gabriel pinned him against the wall and asked who he was, but the man only said he was an angel agent. At the same time, Leah was harassed by a strange man. Seeing his perverted expression, she didn't say a word and immediately threw a strong punch. In addition, Paul and David also encountered various troubles. The whole group was caught in a fight, but at this moment, the angel agent suddenly disappeared before Gabriel's eyes. It was obvious that he was not human. At this time, another team suddenly appeared. The leader was named Lucius. They were not enemies with Gabriel and his teammates, but they claimed that Gabriel's group's interference had ruined their plans. Seeing that the two sides were about to quarrel, Leah immediately stopped her teammates. She then told them that the group opposite were peace warriors, so everyone could finally sit down and negotiate calmly. When Lucius learned that Leah had the ability to see the future, he couldn't help but exclaim that she was the real chosen one. Next, Lucius introduced his team, which consisted of police officer Jacob, atheist Faru, and himself. Each of them became peace warriors for different reasons. After listening to Lucius's introduction, Gabriel also told him everything he knew. clue. But Lucius also knew about Michael's actions. The person they were going to capture today was one of Michael's dark warriors. It was clear that Lucius had more information than they did, so Gabriel invited Lucius to cooperate. But Lucius said that they were only following the angel's instructions and were neutral and peaceful. Therefore, they had no intention of interfering in human affairs. Seeing the other party's resolute attitude, Gabriel's group could only leave in disappointment. That night, Leah received an email. The sender said that they could help them. After a short discussion, the group decided to go see what was going on. They then went to a building full of technology and met the sender, Miss Deborah. Deborah introduced the high-tech weapons she had researched and developed. These new weapons were so powerful that Gabriel and the others immediately saw hope. Next, Deborah gave a dagger to the sharpshooter David. As a sniper, he could make the most of this weapon. After that, the others also received new weapons one by one. Paul received a pistol with great damage. Leah's weapon was an angel bow. Deborah also gave Leah a bottle of mysterious blue liquid, exactly like the one she saw in the vision. What did this mean? Finally, Gabriel received an ancient sword, but apparently he preferred powerful firearms. However, Deborah said that this sword was left to Gabriel by a special friend. Perhaps it would bring him unexpected results. So the four of them left satisfied. Next, Gabriel went to a church. There were several majestic giant statues. The statue of the goddess in the middle had white wings growing from her back, but the goddess held a terrifying skull in her hand. Gabriel watched curiously. At this moment, Balthazar suddenly appeared and told Gabriel that this statue was called Diana. Balthazar's face showed a nostalgic look. Then a memory appeared. In the battle many years ago, Balthazar fought 3 giant ugly monsters with a sword in his hand. His fighting power was amazing. He fought against many enemies alone and was not at all outdone. However, the next second, the person fighting the monsters turned into Gabriel. Why was that? Could it be that Gabriel had also participated in the battle many years ago? But Balthazar did not explain much and quickly escaped from the memory. Then Gabriel reported on his team's progress. Although they had found peaceful warriors, the other side did not want to help, so Gabriel asked Balthazar how they could find the fallen angel Michael. However, at this moment, Balthazar transformed into a word puzzler. Gabriel listened but did not understand anything. Gabriel had no idea what Balthazar wanted to convey. Balthazar also refused to explain the meaning of these words because he believed that Gabriel would soon understand the hidden meaning of his words. After thinking for a while, Gabriel and the others went to the local library hoping to find the answer in the books. So everyone split up to carefully investigate everywhere, but in the end, they did not get anything. When the 4 of them gathered, they found a large amount of black powder scattered on the first floor lobby floor. The next second, the demon army appeared from the dark fog. They were all mutated people. All of them had fierce faces and roared as they charged towards Gabriel and his teammates. Seeing this, the group hurriedly picked up their weapons and fought back fiercely. But these attacks did not harm the mutants at all. In no time, all 4 of them were beaten until they had no strength to fight back. It seemed like they were about to lose their lives. At the critical moment, the peacekeepers suddenly appeared. The situation on the battlefield immediately reversed. Gabriel also escaped the bonds of the mutants, but just as Gabriel asked about Michael's whereabouts, the other side made a series of strange sounds and then disappeared into thin air. At this time, the peacekeepers had finished off all the remaining mutants. From their story, Gabriel learned that Deborah had also been attacked by demons. Fortunately, she used all her strength to use a homemade weapon to behead the enemy. Thanks to that, she narrowly escaped death. She then reported this to the peacekeepers. Combined with the attack on Gabriel's team, Lucius deduced that Michael's demon army had formed, and the situation had become serious. Therefore, they changed their minds and decided to cooperate with Gabriel's team. Lucius also brought some useful news. There was an ancient cave town here that translated as the Assurance of Jehovah. Perhaps it was related to what they were looking for, so everyone decided to go there to find out. At the same time, the man in the suit appeared again. It turned out that he was the incarnation of Michael. At this time, he was still recruiting humans to join the demon army. This time, he targeted a mafia boss. The 2 of them naturally couldn't get along. They didn't even say a few words before they started fighting. However, none of the boss's men were good. They were defeated in just a few rounds. Just like that, Michael's demon army became even more powerful. The scene changed again for Gabriel and the others. After a long journey, they finally arrived at the legendary cave town. Looking at the scenery around the place, it was obvious that it had been abandoned for a long time. But according to them, there were still things worth exploring here. So the 7 of them decided to split up. But as soon as they entered the cave, both groups were attacked by monsters at the same time. The strange creatures roared and rushed towards them. Leah was the first to shoot an arrow, but physical attacks were completely useless against the monsters. David's dagger did not cause any damage to them. On the contrary, it made the monsters even angrier. Fortunately, the peacekeeper Jacob took the opportunity opportunity to cut off the monster's tail. Seeing the monster groan in pain, David immediately stepped forward and stuffed the dagger into its mouth, successfully killing it. At the same time, Gabriel and the others also fell into a fierce battle with the monster. Lucius was the first to attack. He drew his weapon and stabbed the monster's palm, but he was also thrown away by the monster. However, Gabriel took the opportunity to stab the monster straight in the head. The wounded monster's expression immediately changed. It turned around and ran away. Because Lucius was seriously injured, Gabriel had no choice but to give up on chasing him. Gabriel then took Lucius back to his residence for treatment. But at this moment, Paul suddenly lost control of his emotions. That day, the extreme danger had completely broken Paul's spirit. He had never expected that this mission would be so dangerous, so he resolutely turned around and left. In order to learn more about how to use the mysterious sword, Gabriel sought out Deborah for guidance once again. But he had never expected that the sword that was originally ordinary in his hand could burst into a fierce flame. Gabriel immediately felt a glimmer of hope in his eyes. However, Deborah said that she could not provide the necessary help to Gabriel, but Lucius could. As long as Gabriel mastered how to use it, he would be able to unleash the sword's full potential. Meanwhile, in another place, David went to Jacob, the knife user in the team, hoping to learn a few moves. However, David was rejected by Jacob. The reason was because Jacob was always very busy. In addition to daily training and performing missions, he devoted almost all of his time and energy to the children at the orphanage. Right now, he was also preparing to go to the orphanage kitchen to help. When David heard that, he immediately offered to help. However, when the two passed through a small alley, they unexpectedly encountered an angel agent of the demon army. The two immediately chased him, but they were not outside the alley. There were two soldiers on motorbikes waiting. Soon, the two were separated by the speeding motorbikes, creating a breathtaking chase on the town streets. Seeing that the enemy was getting further and further away, Jacob quickly took a shortcut to the intersection. Jacob used his foot to push the motorcyclist off the bike. But before Jacob could ask him anything, black smoke rose from his face and he died. At this time, Gabriel was standing in front of the mirror practicing drawing his sword, but the blade was completely still, with no sign of fire. Where did the fire come from? This made Gabriel extremely confused and unable to explain. At that moment, Lucius, who had recovered somewhat from his injury, stepped forward. Gabriel immediately humbled himself and asked how to use it. However, Lucius told Gabriel that this was related to the sword holder's faith. Previously, due to the after effects of the war, Gabriel had lost his faith, so now Gabriel had to prove himself. Seeing Gabriel's suffering, Lucius once again reminded him that as long as the sword holder could gain absolute trust, the sword would respond accordingly. At this moment, Paul found the two people. He found traces of monster activity in the Luginski forest, so the group immediately entered the forest. But before they could take a few steps, several dark figures passed before their eyes. Gabriel vigilantly signaled the group to stop. The next second, several terrifying monsters surrounded them. Everyone immediately raised their weapons to defend themselves. The monsters roared at them. It seemed like they were about to go through a fierce battle, but after a few whistles, the monsters disappeared in the blink of an eye. Then, many people who had left the group suddenly appeared. He announced that he had discovered a demon. He had followed it to a newspaper office where he had seen Michael. Paul felt extremely uneasy, so he followed everyone to this forest. His words were sincere. However, Faru did not trust the coward who had escaped earlier. He raised his gun and prepared to kill Paul, but was stopped by Gabriel. Gabriel still wanted to give his old comrade a chance. Just like that, the group of 7 continued their journey. When they passed by a church, Lucius appeared extremely devout. He then told Gabriel that faith was always worth pursuing. As long as one stopped and listened carefully, one could feel the guidance of the gods. After listening, Gabriel fell into deep thought. In the evening, the group arrived at a solemn and majestic palace. The stone pillars in the palace were carved with strange reliefs. Occasionally, the roars of monsters could be heard. Everyone held their weapons tightly and carefully explored deep inside the palace. At this moment, Gabriel suddenly discovered that something was wrong with Paul's expression. Sure enough, in the next second, countless demons came out from behind the stone pillars. It turned out that all along Paul had been Michael in disguise. Immediately after Gabriel's army was successfully established, Michael found a chance to kill Paul and then disguised himself as him to infiltrate the team. Knowing the truth, Gabriel's eyes were filled with anger. Gabriel said with hatred that he would definitely kill Michael to avenge his good brother, but Michael smiled contemptuously. Then Michael took 2 steps back and handed the battlefield to his demon army. The Great War broke out in a close call. The two sides fought fiercely with no clear winner. Lucius confronted Michael's dark warrior, but after only a few rounds, the opponent took advantage of Lucius's weakness and stabbed him in the stomach. Seeing this, Gabriel rushed over to see, but Lucius was already dying. Lucius handed the cross necklace in his hand to Gabriel and slowly breathed his last. Gabriel closed his eyes in sorrow, but the next moment Gabriel fell into a place burned by red fire. The heat burned Gabriel's flesh as if he were in hell. Balthazar had been waiting for him there for a long time. Balthazar told Gabriel that the scene before him was the future of the earth and humanity after Michael succeeded. At this time, Gabriel asked Balthazar why God chose him to be the savior. Balthazar told Gabriel to close his eyes again. This time, Gabriel returned to the Iraq battlefield 10 years ago. It turned out that at that time, Gabriel had discovered a surviving girl. So Gabriel put down his weapon, but he was targeted by an enemy sniper. Then a bullet hit Gabriel's chest. At that moment, Gabriel lost his faith and lost his way. But God never abandoned him, and Gabriel's old comrades also came here because they believed in Gabriel himself. As soon as he finished speaking, Balthazar turned and left. Looking at the ruined scene before his eyes, Gabriel seemed to have realized something, so he closed his eyes again. When he regained consciousness, Gabriel picked up his weapon without hesitation and chased after Michael. Soon, the two arrived at an altar surrounded by statues. At this time, Gabriel's teammates were still fighting fiercely with the demon army. The seemingly immortal demon army kept charging towards them. On the other side, Michael still did not give up on his intention to brainwash Gabriel. Michael advised Gabriel to join his army. If not, Gabriel should wait and fight with humanity to destroy the wind. But Gabriel's will was extremely steadfast. Even though he knew that the strength of both sides was unequal, Gabriel still raised his sword and fought Michael. But the reality was so cruel. After only 2 rounds, Gabriel was continuously beaten back. Although he was not satisfied, in the end, Gabriel was still kicked to the ground and lost all his strength to fight back. Gabriel lay on the ground and slowly closed his eyes. This time, before his eyes were only images of Jesus. As each frame flashed by, Gabriel's collapsed faith was now restored. The candle of faith burned again. Gabriel suddenly opened his eyes and then picked up the sword. At this moment, a red flame covered the blade. A pair of pure white angel wings grew from Gabriel's back. It turned out that Gabriel was the embodiment of the angel of vengeance. Now Gabriel could finally unleash the true power of this weapon. Michael was extremely terrified at this moment, but Gabriel did not give him a chance to react. Gabriel swung his sword and rushed forward. The situation on the battlefield suddenly reversed. Gabriel controlled Michael in just a few moves. Then, Gabriel stabbed Michael in the stomach. Michael fell to the ground and desperately called for help from the demon army. But the surprising thing was that the Dark Warriors had been watching in the dark. At this moment, they abandoned Michael and ran away alone. Seeing the outcome was certain, Michael still did not accept it. He spoke harshly, but that the Lord of Hell, Lucifer, suddenly appeared. Michael's 2 consecutive failures made Lucifer extremely angry. Even though Michael emphasized that he was the strongest archangel, Lucifer still decided not to give Michael any more chances. Then the messenger of God, Balthazar, also appeared here. Balthazar had no intention of stopping Lucifer. In front of everyone, Michael turned into a black smoke. Faced with Lucifer's threat, Gabriel was not afraid at all. Gabriel firmly looked at Lucifer's illusion and declared that he was always ready to fight. Finally, Lucifer disappeared with his army of demons. The danger of the Earth's destruction was also eliminated. Gabriel returned to his teammates. At this time, he finally realized that he had actually died a long time ago, but he had only been in charge before. Now he could finally face the truth calmly. Then he said goodbye to his friends and turned to walk into the sunlight. Under the sunlight, Gabriel turned into dust and disappeared into the air. A few days later, Leah took her daughter to the apartment building where Gabriel used to live. Leah found the girl who often invited Gabriel to play games and gave her the gift that Gabriel had prepared. It was a lovely tea set. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching the movie. If you find it interesting, please give me a like and subscribe to the channel to support us. Goodbye, and see you again.